Hello students, good morning. Welcome to online learning, standard 11, subject chemistry. Dear students, from 11th standard chemistry, unit 1, that is basic concepts of chemistry and chemical calculations we have been discussing. And in this unit, so far we have discussed many topics. And using this video, the concept which we are going to discuss is limiting and excess reagents. So it is also a new topic for you. So pay attention and listen carefully. What are called as limiting and excess reagents. Okay, students. I would like to start this video with an example. Look here. If you are going to attend a birthday party of your friend, so after attending the party, what we will do? We'll go to take our lunch. Okay, but there is a problem here. Okay, what it is see here, the rice is in excess amount. It is in a large quantity, whereas the curry is in very small amount. Can you able to understand what I'm coming to say? You have rice in excess quantity, but curry you have only in lesser quantity. So is it possible to have the lunch? No, it is not possible. So, because of possessing one of the food items in lesser quantity, the progress is stopped. The lunch ceremony is stopped. Okay. So, here the same analogy can be applied to carry out a chemical reaction also. We need various reactants to carry out a reaction. And out of those reactants, if a particular reagent or particular reactant is lesser in amount, the reaction is stopped. Can you be able to catch what I am saying? Yes. So look here, there is a reaction taken which shows the formation of ammonia. For forming ammonia, we need nitrogen, we need hydrogen. So when 1 mole of nitrogen combines with 3 moles of hydrogen, we get 2 moles of ammonia. So this is actually a reaction which shows the formation of ammonia. Is it clear how to pronounce this reaction? 1 mole of nitrogen reacts with 3 moles of hydrogen and forms 2 moles of ammonia. Just imagine and see if the same reaction is carried out with 1 mole of hydrogen. If the amount of hydrogen is reduced, is this reaction possible? Can you able to understand? Normally, to prepare ammonia, we need how many moles of hydrogen? We need 3 moles of hydrogen. But when the same reaction is carried out using 1 mole of hydrogen, will this reaction takes place? The answer is no. It is not possible. Why it's not possible? Because in such case we have lesser amount of hydrogen. So because of possessing a lesser amount of hydrogen, the reaction is stopped. Is it clear, students? So because of possessing hydrogen in lower quantity, the reaction progress is stopped. So in chemistry, we are going to see about 2 different types of reagents. Those are limiting and excess reagents. Look here. First, I have shown the meaning of the term limit. What do you understand by the term limit in this case? So the meaning of the term limit is stops. Okay, so what is the meaning of the word limits? Stops. So what can be limiting reagent? A reaction is stopped because of the shortage of a particular reagent, and that reagent is called as limiting reagent. In the example previously, I took the example of lunch ceremony. Here, the lunch ceremony is stopped because of what? Because of the lower amount of curry. So in this case, this curry is the limiting reagent. Likewise, in chemical reactions, because of the lower quantity of a particular reagent, the reaction progress is stopped. So such reagents are called as limiting reagents. Can you able to catch what I am coming to say, students? What we have seen here, limiting reagents. So what are called as limiting reagents? The reagent which stops the reaction from further taking place is called as limiting reagent. It's given here. The reagent which limits or stops the reaction from further taking place is called as limiting reagent. Because of the shortage of this particular reagent, the reaction will not take place further, and so the reagent is called as limiting reagent. Okay, then what can be excess reagent? Again, come to the example of this. Here, what is in excess quantity? This rice is in excess quantity. So here it is called as excess reagent. In the chemical reactions also, if one of the reagent is large in amount, that will be called as excess reagent. Look here, in this example, if we take 1 mole of hydrogen, here hydrogen is the limiting reagent and nitrogen is the excess reagent. So let me read the definition. What is called as excess reagent? It is given here. The reagent which is in excess amount is called excess reagent. So from this slide we came to understand the definitions of two different terms. Those are a limiting reagent and excess reagent. So what is called as a limiting reagent? A reagent which stops or limits the reaction from further taking place is called as a limiting reagent. Whereas what is called as excess reagent? The reagent which is in excess amount is called as excess reagent. So have the example of that lunch in your mind, then automatically you can understand this concept very easily. Okay, now in order to explain this concept little more detailed way, I have taken another example, preparation of sulfur hexafluoride. The formula of sulfur hexafluoride is SF6. Okay, so consider this reaction. When 1 mole of sulfur is allowed to react with 3 moles of fluorine, 3F2, the product is 1 mole of sulfur hexafluoride, which is SF6. Is it clear, students? When 1 mole of sulfur is allowed to react with 3 moles of fluorine, the product is 1 mole of sulfur hexafluoride. It is a stoichiometric equation. Okay, but now let us take another condition. Imagine the same reaction in another way. Look here, when 3 moles of sulfur is allowed to react with 12 moles of fluorine, we get 3 moles of sulfur hexafluoride. Now in the reactant side, how many sulfur atoms we have? We have 3 sulfur atoms. In the product side also we have 3 sulfur atoms. So it is balanced. Now come to fluorine. In the reactant side, how many fluorines we have? 12 into 2, 24 fluorines we have in the reactant side. But in the product side, how many fluorines we have? 3 into 6, 18. So in the reactant side, the number of fluorine atoms is 24, whereas in the product side it is 18. So from this what we can understand, look here, if we have some extra quantity of sulfur, if you have the sulfur in extra quantity, this excess fluorine can react with it and we can get more amount of product, isn't it? But the reaction is stopped because of what? Because of the lower quantity of sulfur. If we have extra amount of sulfur, it can further react with the excess fluorine and we can get more amount of product, but the reaction is limited or it is stopped because of the low quantity of what? Sulfur. So in this place, what is acting as a limiting reagent? Sulfur is acting as a limiting reagent because it stops or it limits the reaction from further taking place. So here it is considered as the limiting reagent. Is it clear, students? Okay, now come to fluorine. So if we identify the limiting reagent, automatically we can say the excess reagent. Here what is excess reagent? Fluorine is the excess reagent. How? In the reactant side we have 24 atoms of fluorine, whereas in the product side we have only 18 atoms of fluorine. So in this case, sulfur is the limiting reagent. It is present in a lower quantity. So because of its lower quantity, the reaction is stopped from further taking place. So here sulfur is acting as a limiting reagent, whereas the fluorine is an extra quantity. We have more amount of fluorine. So fluorine is the excess reagent here. Can you able to understand, students? What is limiting reagent? The reagent which stops or limits the reaction from further taking place is called as limiting reagent, whereas the reagent which is in excess amount is called as excess reagent. Okay, ma. With this, the video ends. Here, what are the things we have seen? We have seen what is called as limiting and what is called as excess reagent with an example. Okay, this is the example I have taken in order to explain the limiting and excess reagents, and this is another example. Then definitions of limiting and excess reagents we have seen. Another example of limiting and excess reagents. Okay, students, with this video ends. If you have any doubts, you can approach me anytime. Thank you.